I'll speak a little bit in Portuguese, Teodora, just to introduce you, and then you'll be ready, okay?
Okay, excellent.
Bom, pessoal, como é que foi aí de primeiro dia? Coloca aí no chat. Quero saber aí como é que vocês, o que vocês gostaram do dia de ontem. Comenta aí. E hoje nós temos mais aí, Kanban Brasil 2021. O dia de hoje, pessoal, vai ser bem especial. A gente vai começar o dia com o Keynote da Teodora. A Teodora vai apresentar algo que eu acredito que pode ser o problema de muitas pessoas. Como que nós podemos evoluir uma organização que é orientada a projetos. Então, acho que vocês vão ter um conteúdo que eu, particularmente, também vou me interessar bastante, porque apesar de todo mundo estar hoje por atravessar uma transformação ágil ou algo do tipo, nós temos muitas ainda organizações que trabalham por projeto e outras áreas que não necessariamente podem ser empresas aí de tecnologia. Então, acho que esse Keynote vai ser bem especial. Continuando no dia de hoje, pessoal, nosso programa tem mais quatro palestras e terminamos o dia com o Keynote do Mark Belmonte. Então, acho que o dia hoje é bem especial para um segundo dia. E não se esqueçam, pessoal, que durante o break, olha lá no programa, nós temos o nosso bate-papo, nosso encontro, nosso networking digital através do Wonder. Então, participem lá e espero ver uma troca bem rica entre vocês, porque vocês sabem que uma conferência não é somente aí palestras, não é somente conteúdo, é também um encontro aí da nossa comunidade. So, Teodora, thank you for giving us the pleasure of your presence here, and I hope you have a good keynote. So, let's do it.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. I hope we do it. Okay. Shall I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, because I have something prepared. Just a second.
Here you go.
Do you see it now?
Yes, but we are seeing. No.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So, working with project organizations, revitalizing project organization. Now, I would like to see your faces, but I can imagine that many of you are wondering why are we going to talk about project organizations if lots of people, coaches, trainers in the Agile community are saying sometimes that we should not work by projects and we have to work by products, by services. So why do we start talking about project organizations? However, the reality is that many thousands, millions of organizations in the world are still working by projects. And you know, PMI released the new release of PMBOK in August this year. And of course, the concept of project and organizing work by project is something very valid for many organizations. And if you talk with project managers and project organizations, they will tell you that projects are used to deliver both products and services. So this means that all our body of knowledge is very useful for these organizations, especially when they are in a very critical situation right now and they are seeking solutions for resolving their challenges. And which are their challenges right now? These are what you see on the screen, challenges with meeting deadlines, challenges with meeting customer expectations, fulfilling these customer expectations stably, challenges with the high workload of the people in the projects are already challenges in the past. They are not resolved, they persist. But what happens since the pandemic is that there are new challenges that are even stronger and that require the attention and require some actions in project organizations. In particular, they see that they need to gain their customer trust, working with the customers from the moment, from the phases of eliciting requirements, defining the product, defining the service, everything that we in the Kanban community would call it upstream Kanban. So there is a very strong work that has to be done by the project organizations together with the customer, and they need guidance how to do this in order to, before coming to the point of agreeing some project work to be delivered. So these are important challenges for project organizations. Additionally, they have to meet ever aggressive deadlines. These are words that come from project organizations we've been working with in the recent years, especially in the pandemic. All customers, suppliers require that work is delivered in ever shorter time, and it's really hard to achieve these deadlines, especially if we are talking about larger projects that involve many stakeholders. In addition, the workload is not high. It's excessively high nowadays. Companies are sharing that people have to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and this is not sustainable on the long run. Project organizations are seeking for solutions that will help them resolve these challenges, but some of them are telling us that after the second reorganization of the company, in order to adopt a particular method, they have lost 20% of their senior staff. 20% of experienced people working in the company is a big harm for project organizations. Such organizations decide that they should not contract junior people because they do not have time to train them and to start working with them while these people start working in the company effectively. And that's why they want to contract again, to hire again junior people. And this is either very difficult or very expensive, so they cannot afford it. So this is really a critical situation we are living now. And these are the observations from project organizations. Do they need a solution? Yes. Can we help them? Yes. Simply they have to know that we can do this for them, and they can take advantage of the Kanban method and the Kanban Maturity Model for resolving these challenges in an evolutionary manner. So how do we help organizations to sustain their competitivity, to gain the trust and sustain the trust of their customers, and in addition to react very quickly and very adequately in situations or in an environment which is very uncertain? There are lots of factors that affect the project organizations, factors that affect their suppliers, their customers, and of course there is a mixture of all these factors in the business environment of project organizations that make their life even harder compared to the previous years of managing projects. So do we have any examples? Of course, many companies have demonstrated resilience during the pandemic, but what we are interested now and what I'm going to share with you are examples of project organizations who have evolved very quickly and very correctly thanks to the right knowledge of Kanban and the Kanban Maturity Model in pandemic. So for example, let's see this example. Ulma Handling System is an intralogistic company in Spain. They are working, although the headquarters is in Spain, in the Basque Country, they are working in different continents. They are developing large engineering projects. The durations of their projects are sometimes 2 years, 2 years and a half. They are working with many stakeholders, with many suppliers. They have civil engineering works in their projects in different continents. And of course, at least the first lockdown in Spain was very hard, very strict. So they had to stop, of course, their projects. And afterwards, they had to reinitiate, restart all these projects very quickly in order to try to compensate this delay of about 3 months, but that was not easy at all because they do not depend only on their work. They depend on the work of the customer, of their suppliers, many organizations that are involved in these projects. So really a hard job for this organization. This organization had started with introducing Kanban about 4 or 5 months before the first lockdown in Spain in March last year, so end of 2019. They had seen that it would help them for managing their projects And immediately after the first lockdown, they decided that it's not time for continuing very quiet pace for introducing Kanban for managing their projects. They needed to accelerate their evolution in order to be able to cope with the challenges in their projects. So what they decided is that in addition to introducing Kanban for managing the work in different teams, business areas, we have to start obtaining visibility in the project work for the entire projects for the entire value stream end-to-end, and also at the level of multiple projects, the portfolio projects. And in fact, by now they are using Kanban for managing their projects at all levels of the organizations. And in fact, I would say, knowing them, that this is one of the reasons that allowed them to achieve and to sustain their work in such difficult environment and situations, when the work in different places had to be managed in a very synchronous manner without being able to travel to these places, and overcoming all the difficulties in obtaining information about how work is going in the project. So this is one example. I can show you also other examples, but let's see in general, which are the steps, what we have learned from working with project organizations in turbulent times, when there is a higher level of uncertainty in the business environment. So which are the steps that other companies in similar situations can learn from and can apply in their contexts? Okay, so the first thing is, if there is high level of uncertainty and there is high level of stress and pressure for meeting deadlines, for completing, meeting many expectations from different sides, and there is, of course, stress and pressure related to in such situation in the organizations, the first thing that one can do is reducing the stress, isolating, protecting the organization from the external stress, and make sure that the organization starts working on what depends on them. So throw light on where the teams are working in order to sustain the functions of the organizations, in order to allow the teams and the business units in the organizations to focus on what is important in this moment. They have to understand that they are investing their scarcest resource, the time of their people. So it is important that in such critical situation, this time is invested on the right thing. And therefore, companies should think how they can enable this smooth work, collaborative work in the teams, in order to make them work focused on the customer needs. So this is maybe the first step they can do: protect the organization and allow the teams are working smoothly and focused on what is important for their customers at this moment. And then as a next step, they can start developing kind of infrastructure that allows the communication between the teams and between the teams and the customer. In a situation when there is lots of uncertainty and there are lots of factors that influence the development of the projects, the voice of the customer is maybe your nearest destination. So you're interested in listening to this voice of the customer and ensuring that the transmission of these needs, of these expectations of the customers quickly through the entire value chain of the projects, from the beginning to the end. Start focusing on how much time it takes you and trying to reduce this time for responding to customers. This is the way how they retain the trust of the customers and are able to react quickly to some changes in the customer expectations. In order to make sure that all the teams start to working together, focused on these customer expectations, think of some policies, some rules for making decisions between the team that are simple, but allow not only individual teams, but the entire but all the teams that are involved in the projects from end to end, from the beginning to the final delivery of the product in a synchronized manner. So this is like a second step that they can start thinking. And if companies come to a point when they are already able to manage this for several customers, for certain group of customers, gradually they start developing this internal flexibility in the organization to satisfy the expectations of several, many, or all the customers. So this is how the organization start working together on the same purpose. So we have one company, one purpose, one set of priorities that are clear to the entire organization. Something very important at this level, we start seeing like a copy or a digital copy, because this nowadays companies are using digital tools for managing their work with Kanban. So we start seeing that they are creating a digital copy of their operating models. And they use this digital copy, this common picture of their operating model, not only to understand it, but also to be able to improve it. In turbulent times, it is important that they encourage the feedback and the observations from receiving these observations from different perspectives. In turbulent times, things can get wrong at any time. So companies are interested in obtaining this feedback from inside the organization and from outside the organization, in such that they are able to react quickly and be prepared, trying to even anticipate some actions, prepared and to react adequately to some external events that are happening and that put in risk the projects, means being able to identify what could be the impacts, what impacts you expect for your project, and being able to deploy quickly capacity, people, resources, whatever is needed on the places, and in such a way that you continue delivering your functions, you continue developing the products or the services that you are delivering to your customers very quickly. So this is the case of Fulma handling systems. They managed to reach very quickly to such a situation in order to be able to have good visibility and good control over all the projects that they are running in their organizations. Something very important, especially for organizations who are running, who are using digital tools for managing their project work, they start taking advantage of the data that are enabled by the digital tools. This means that all the observations and feedback from the organization and from the environment, from the context of the project, is supported by metrics that are very valuable and enable making correct and adequate decisions about the projects. And having the data and having this deep understanding of how the organization works, how they function, what is happening in the projects, and how also using data that allow them to make informed decisions and respond quickly to changes in the project environments, in fact, prepares the organizations for improving the economics, improving the efficiency, improving the economic results of the organizations, and start gaining, at least retaining, the competitiveness of the business. This is another example. Similar company, well, a smaller one, Sumabe, again in Spain, in the north of Spain. This organization started working with Kanban about 8 years ago. And they are a small organization, rather middle-sized organization. They started because they wanted to differentiate themselves and to increase their competitiveness compared to other project organizations. So they started managing their work with Kanban. Nowadays, this company is completely different than the one 8 years ago. And they, in addition to manage the entire business with Kanban, not only the project, the entire business of Kanbans with Kanban, they admit that the culture of the organization has changed a lot. Nowadays, they are an organization that works together, that they discuss and face the problems that address the business, not this project or that project. And they have moved from an organization that in which, as in many organizations, work was initially assigned to particular people, work was assigned to projects, project managers were managing their projects, to an organization that understands their business context, that understands their customers, the needs of these customers, and they are working in a very united manner nowadays. Why do I mention this example here? Because this is a great example of a company that has started using Kanban for managing their project work, but in fact, what they observe and what they appreciate most nowadays is the change in the culture that they have achieved. And something else, if you talk with them nowadays in this time, they will tell you that resilience is, in fact, has to be prepared, has to be developed in more peaceful times, in order that nowadays in critical situations, they are able to work together, make decisions, and have this really deep understanding of how they work, what are their processes, what they can commit to, what they can promise to their customers, and then be sure that they will meet their commitments. So important lesson from this organization. You can see a video with the interview of their general manager on our website. So revitalizing project organizations, these are good examples. I hope that these are interesting insights and lessons that we have learned from learning with project organizations. The point now, the question now is, do we have appropriate body of knowledge, some guidance that we can suggest to project organizations? And therefore, I would like to make a reference to the Kanban Maturity Model. In fact, this is the body of knowledge, the key document that describes the experience and knowledge of many organizations, many more organizations than these two examples that I have mentioned. And in addition, this is a model that describes a path for evolutionary change in organizations. So it is not a model for increasing the maturity of Kanban or the implementation of Kanban. It is a model that describes the development of the maturity, the agility, and the resilience of entire organizations. Something very important that I'm sure that you know this, because this model exists from the beta release from about 2.5 years. Last year we published the second release of the model. But what I would like you to remember, to understand for this model, is that it combines practices from Kanban practices about managing your product and service work, also applicable to project management, and cultural values that you can use together to improve the business outcomes of the organization. So this is a model that defines the path for organizations. You can see it's a very rich. You can always access to the book or to KMM Plus for seeing the content of this model. What is interesting for project organizations, however, is that we have defined a very short 20 pages guide for helping project organizations to understand this body of knowledge and be able to gradually start adopting and applying this model, adjusted, this content adjusted to the needs and to the context of project organizations. And thanks to Carlos Padilla, we also have this guide translated to Portuguese, so you can download it for free from our website. So back to the point of this presentation, how can we revitalize project organizations? So similarly to these insights from real work of project organizations developing complex projects, we have reflected this in the guide. So we always start from helping the smallest units in the organizations, the teams, the business units, the business area, to obtain an understanding of what they do and help them work collaboratively on meeting customer expectations. So very limited scope, but at least we facilitate, enable this collaborative work in the teams. They can work in a focused manner on what is important for the organizations, for the customer in this time. So this is how we typically start designing the Kanban boards for the team. Each point here, each circle that you see here, this orange one, represents a team or a business unit. And working for project organizations, of course, having the Kanban boards for different teams of specialists, for example, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, software developers, logistics people, or other specialists is not enough. What is important for project organizations is to be able to see the entire value chain, how the project work is delivered, is developed, what is the status of the project work from the first day of the project, from the beginning to the end of the project. And this is how we, therefore we developed, or we suggest organizations to start visualizing this work using project Kanban boards, and of course, using the practices for managing the workflow in order to ensure a smooth flow through all the teams or people involved in the delivery of this project. The point is, the easy aspect of this recommendation, of this practice, is that teams and projects, and what we are going to see now, even designing boards for multiple projects and portfolio, they always use the same practices for designing the Kanban board. If you if you take the Kanban University courses, for example, Kanban system design, you will know the static technique, the static tool for designing a Kanban board. This tool applies for designing a board for a team, designing a board for a project end-to-end flow, and designing a board for a program or a portfolio. So very effective, the same practices, no additional bureaucracy are applying to designing and providing visibility on the project work at all projects, at all levels of an organization. And the question that we usually receive from project managers in project organizations is, what is going to happen with my Gantt chart, with my plan of the project? Because we need this tool, this artifact. We use, especially in large projects, complex projects with many stakeholders involved in them. Of course, this is a very important tool for the project. Projects have to be planned, and they have to be planned sometimes even long term. So what happens is they continue using it. So we never tell them that they have to stop using it, because they need it. So they will continue using it. The good news for project organizations is that they can complement their plans. It is this dimension, the time dimension for the projects, with information coming from the Kanban boards, because the Kanban boards have another dimension of the project work. This is the process, the workflow dimension, and these two dimensions, the time dimension and the value chain dimensions, are complementary dimensions, which, especially in critical times, are it's very useful to have both of them, and if possible, have them integrated in such a way that all information that comes from the Kanban boards, like what is the status of the project? These are all these questions that we immediately obtain from the Kanban board. What is the status of the work? Are there any blockages, any risks that have arisen in the context of the project? Are there any risks for delay? So everything is on the Kanban board, and you can immediately link it, integrate it with your project plan in the format of Gantt chart, and in such a way you get this information. Project managers get this information immediately that they need for their meeting with suppliers, with customers, meetings of the project management board, working with other projects, and making planning other project work in the organization. So very important information, and what is more important, it is very easy to integrate these two dimensions of managing project work. And in addition to this, when organizations use appropriate Kanban tools for managing their work, they get additional information that answers in an immediate manner questions that are very important for making decisions in the project. For example, estimations, very hot topic in project organizations, and predictability, estimating how long it would take a work to be delivered, how much effort it even would take for delivering this work, and what is the level of confidence that project organizations have when they have to commit to delivering on a certain date. So all this information comes from the Kanban systems. When they are used appropriately, when they are used in a disciplined manner, this information comes immediately in an instant manner from the Kanban systems, and project organizations, teams, and project managers take advantage for it in planning their work and planning other projects. Also, additional information related to the quality, understanding what causes defects, what causes rework, how much is the impact of not addressing some particular causes for these problems. All this information can come from the Kanban boards, from the Kanban systems as well. How much work they can deliver in a certain time with their available capacity, with their capacity that is finite capacity, although the demand is infinite. So they have to be able to answer these questions quickly and in a reliable manner in order to be able to plan the work, not only in single project, but also in a program and also at portfolio level. And of course, the question related to the efficiency of their processes, precisely to be able to improve it and be able to gain in flexibility and improving the economic results of the organization. So all this information comes very quickly, even automatically, if we use, if the company, the organization uses digital Kanban tools, Kanban systems. And in a similar manner, they can start connecting the information from a single project through a program, a collection of projects that are developed with a certain objective, the objective of the program, and to the portfolio level. And all this information is that provides this feedback, this information about managing the risks in the project, managing the resources in the projects, managing the cost of the projects, important aspects of project management, especially in large projects that involve many companies and many stakeholders. And in the end, it's not difficult at all. It's simply you need to know the steps. We typically start with this level, throwing light on what is what the teams, the specialist teams are working in order to ensure that they work focused on the customer valuable customer work. Then we start connecting the work developed by different teams in the end-to-end value chain of the projects. And then we can start seeing the information both at program level and portfolio level. Gradually, the Kanban systems provide this data that are necessary for making informed decisions. And in parallel to this, of course, using the knowledge of the Kanban Maturity Model, organizations learn and introduce all the cadences related to strengthening the feedback that comes from the Kanban system. So it's in addition to visualizing and seeing what they see on their Kanban boards, in addition to obtaining the metrics from the Kanban systems, they strengthen this feedback and this improvement of their operating model by means of the feedback loops or the cadences that we introduce. So this creates really a united organization working in a very synchronized manner and focused on the purpose of the organizations. This is that allows organizations to sustain their functions and working focused on what is important at this moment for their customers and adapting quickly, responding quickly to the factors, to unexpected and uncertainty in their project environment. So if we have to summarize what we have learned from project organizations working in times of uncertainty, we would say 3 points. Protect your organization from the unnecessarily additional stress. It's not time for making structural changes, for adopting new methods in the organization. Start where you are, but make sure that you enable smooth work across the entire organization. Provide the mechanisms for this work, visualize the work, ensure that you provide good feedback mechanisms, enable the definition of simple policies in such a way that the work can go smoothly across the entire organization. Then build this digital twin, I would say, of your operating model, not only to be able to see it, but also to be able to improve it. And in order to be able to obtain this feedback, perspectives, observations from different points of view, and be able to react quickly to the situations that develop in your organization. And in parallel, all these practices strengthen the development of the culture of the organizations. But of course, this also requires the leadership of the management of the organization, of the internal change agents, so foster the development of such culture in the entire organization. And so these are 3 points. We have seen that they can be developed even in record time, in a year, less than a year, more than a year, a little bit more than a year, depending on the organization itself and depending on the type of projects that they are developing. And because we know that organizations nowadays are need to accelerate their evolution in this aspect of creating these collaborative and unite organizations focused on their purpose, we have developed a program for managing projects, programs, and portfolio with Kanban. It's only a 6-month program for project managers from organizations and their organizations. So it's not a training class, it is a program that combines trainings and applications of the concepts immediately in the organizations with the objectives to see results in the organizations. Okay, and if you are interested, you can receive some information about this program on our website. And in addition, especially for teams, because this is always the starting point, we have created an online class, which is in total about 2 hours videos for self-learning that might be interesting for you, and I'm happy that we can offer you a discount code. So yeah, you can get this information on our website. I don't know if I have more time. I wanted to have some time for questions.
Hello. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. No. Yes, Teodora, we have some time for questions, and I'd like to start with one question that emerged here in Brazil. I think that I exposed this question on my LinkedIn. I think that was something like 4 weeks ago, and we have a big of discussion about this. Do you think that it's possible for organization to reach something like maturity level 4 or 5 using something like the waterfall model? Maybe this is a hard one, right?
Well, it's a question that I don't know if I can answer in one in a few minutes here, but
Okay.
definitely organizations, if an organization that is using the waterfall life cycle is interested in achieving the agility and resilience that we describe at maturity level 3 and 4, this means fulfilling customer expectations, adapting quickly to changes in the environment of the projects, collaborating, working on a joint purpose of the organization. So they can start. Of course, companies always start where they are. They can start with their waterfall life cycle. But I'm pretty sure, I'm absolutely sure that when they start evolving with Kanban, when they start understanding their process, when they start understanding what is causing delays in their processes, and they will evolve, and their waterfall model will evolve as well to a more agile one. Maybe my observations from companies that have started from waterfall is that sometime later they start saying that we are using a hybrid model, like waterfall agile. But what is important is that they improve in their times, they improve in their responses to customers, they improve in the understanding of the customer demand and their capability, and they start making decisions that improves in this aspect. So in the end, this is what is important. So I'm sure that starting from waterfall, organizations can reach maturity level 3 and 4. Maybe they will change on the way.
Yes, and I think that I share. I think that I saw some of the same phenomena happening in some companies. Usually they start with that the problem with waterfall, the problem is the big batches, and they start somehow using smaller batches, and then it's simply some steps on the evolutionary road, and they can go from there. Nice. We have some questions. That this was a personal question from me, Teodora. So Pedro asked how it's possible. Let me see. How to motivate people working on business as usual, like incidents management. This is the question. How to motivate the people that are working with business as usual. I'm not sure if it's exactly about your talk, but if you can.
Yeah, I understand the question. Of course, first we have to understand other aspects about the context, the organization, before just answering how to motivate people. But I've been working with banks and with teams that do business as usual, deliver these types of services. People are motivated when they see that they can deliver their work with less stress, not long hours in the office. And they are motivated when they see that their customers are happier with the work they deliver. So this could be one aspect. If it is about work, if we have to motivate the people through achieving results, that they feel proud from the work that they are doing, from seeing that the customers are happy, from working together with other colleagues, from knowing what the other colleagues are doing before, because in lots of cases, people work near to each other, but they don't know what they are doing. So when they start working together, they are happy that they know what their colleagues are doing, that they can help each other, that they can start feeling the spirit of a team, that they can rely on their colleagues in critical situations. So all these aspects of the work environment, of the work climate, usually motivate people. Sometimes there are other aspects that are not related to managing their work that have to be addressed. But if it is about managing their work, managing their work better in a collaborative manner and seeing that the customers are happier with their work, I expect, my experience shows that motivates people.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next question. This comes from Alexandre. He's asking how it's possible to combine the maturity levels in teams inside the organization with the KMM. In fact, what he's asking here is that, you know, that maybe the company, the organization, they have multiple areas or multiple teams, and maybe they have a different maturity, okay? And the question is about how can we balance this, or how can we improve everybody to higher maturity? So
yeah, it's not maybe, it's always like this. So
okay.
in organization, we always except in organization that is one organization, one team, very small organization. But in larger organizations in which we have different teams, we typically, we always see that these teams have different levels of maturities, So it's a very valid, very reasonable questions to say, what do we do to improve the team? So we usually use the model to improve the organizations in two aspects. In our individual work with the team, because if we know what is the maturity level of this team, we can always understand what we can suggest or how the team can evolve, of course, in the context of the entire organizations and the other teams they work with. So we use this first to evolve this individual team. And second, we need the big picture. We need the maturity level of the individual teams in order to have an understanding of what is the maturity of the organization. And then we ask the question, what do we want to achieve for these organizations? And seeing this picture that illustrates the combined maturity levels of all the organizations, where do we see on these pictures that it is more important to suggest some improvements for the entire organization? So maybe we can see that we have teams that are individually mature, they can manage their work, but together, collectively, they do not work very well. The information somehow breaks between the teams. So maybe then we can suggest, or we can introduce practices for improving the workflow across several teams, managing these territories of nobody that is between the teams. So start managing the dependencies between the team and help the team see how they work together. And then they realize that it's not only about how my team does the work and how the other team does their work. It is about how we together respond to the customer and how well all the teams do our work in such a way that our customers are satisfied with the services or the products that we deliver. So it is important to understand the maturity level of individual teams in order to be able to know what to suggest, but it is also important to see the maturity level of the entire organizations to be able to identify where the weak links or weak aspects of the organization and suggest appropriate actions, improvement actions.
Okay, Teodora, you know that's a question that usually people during the KCP program, they ask me this a lot, you know. Imagine that you have a team, an agile team, okay, inside the organization. They are not customer facing, okay? So you have a larger portion of the big workflow upstream or even downstream, okay? They are in the middle of the value stream, okay? Is it possible for this internal team, for this, you know, not customer-facing service to be maturity level 3?
Absolutely.
Or beyond?
Absolutely, absolutely. It is possible, okay. And in many organizations, it might be appropriate to start from this team precisely. That was the case of BBVA. So if you read the case study of BBVA, they started from the core data team, and from the name core data, you understand that this is a team that was not delivering a customer-facing service. It was a service core, the core service of all the other services. So it is a shared service that was called from, in fact, all the other services in the finance area of the bank. And they decided to start from there because the pressure for improving this service was so high and was so much demanded by the other teams and from the other services that it was the most painful part in the entire organization. So they started from there. And the customers from this service, for this shared service, were other services, other teams, other business areas. So, and in addition, this service was shared was making part of the value streams of many other services. So, in fact, all of them. And this team was the first one who achieved maturity level 2 and 3 in the sense that they understood what they do. They defined, they understood their customer demand. Okay, the customer is not an external customer, are not users of the bank, but are their customers. So they understood and started introduced practices for managing their customers' demand. They collected data very quickly. They realized that they needed data. So they started using data from their Kanban system in order to improve the predictability, in order to be able to respond to their customers, the other services in the organization, how long it would take to deliver certain work, for example, incident or a small development or an inquiry. So all these types of work that they were doing. So they were able to start responding to their customers with data, improving the predictability of their data. And afterwards, they focused on achieving maturity level 3 precisely only within the team. The organization was not maturity level 3, but this team was, because they were able to make decisions internally. They introduced triage policies like a year after starting with Kanban. And they improved their efficiency. They have data about how much they improved their management costs in this team. And what happened afterwards is that they started inspiring, this example started inspiring other teams. And because they are involved in larger value streams, they started working together with the neighbor services in the end-to-end workflow. And that's how they increase the maturity of other end-to-end services in the organizations. And that was like the trigger for that this effect triggered the decision of the organizations to increase the maturity of the entire organization, so other services involved in the organization. So in this organization, the finance area, there were about between 35 and 40 services that were very much connected, of course, and working individually on them. All of them are businesses, a lot business as usual, but increased the maturity of the entire organization. So yes, it is possible for a service which is not customer facing and customer facing. All services have customers, but it's not end customer facing to reach maturity level 2 and 3.
Okay. So thank you, Teodora. Julian, time is up, right?
Okay. Thank you very much, Rodrigo. It was a pleasure.
Okay.
Okay.
So guys, we are ready. Thank you, Teodora, for your enlightening keynote. So that's it. I'll speak in Portuguese, Teodora. Pessoal, vamos lá. Mesmo esquema de ontem, temos que sair dessa sala, entrar nas próximas salas. Lembre-se que o link agora, pessoal, está na nossa página de programa. Caso você perdeu o link por lá, você consegue acessar os dois lobbies, né, as duas salas aqui do evento. Vejo vocês aí, pessoal, nas salas individuais e mais tarde lá no Wonder para a gente fazer o nosso networking. Beleza, pessoal? Muito obrigado aí e um abraço.